Welcome. My name is Doug Sesserman, and I'm the CEO of American Associates, Ben-Gurion University of the Negev. And welcome to our virtual webinar series, which now today we're all working remotely. I'm sitting in New York. It's 1 o'clock Eastern in front of my virtual office. I'm actually at home, but this is the view from our offices in Midtown Manhattan. Professor Dan Blumberg is joining me today from Beer-Sheva, where he is in his house, I believe. Correct, Dan?
Absolutely. See, if I remove Ben-Gurion University from the background, this is what you'd actually see.
Excellent.
I'm going to leave you with the university background, so that we all remember that we have a physical university here, and that's who we work for, and that's what we're trying to build.
Excellent. Okay, so for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we call this series Ben-Gurion Briefings. It's a live from Israel webinar. Today, our special guest is Professor Dan Blumberg. He is the Vice President of Industrial and Regional Development, and also the Director of the Homeland Security Research Institute at Ben-Gurion University. And he is also the Simon Family Chair in Remote Sensing. Before his current roles, he was also the Vice President of Research at Ben-Gurion University. And we're going to take the next hour to take a bit of a respite, I think, from the coronavirus media mania that we're all consumed with, and talk about something different, about the future of Israel, about the role of Beer-Sheva as the tech hub, the cyber capital of Israel, and a new project called the Innovation District, where in many ways Beer-Sheva is going to be poised to be the most important real estate project and development opportunity for the future of Israel. So with that, Dan, just before beginning, let me explain to the audience how this will work. Dan's going to give a bit of a webinar presentation. He's going to share the screen and use some slides. For those of you who are listening, we want your questions. He's going to talk for about a half an hour. We're then going to open it up to questions that either I will ask or that I'll be able to read from the Q&A function. So feel free to use the Q&A button to ask your questions. I'll be able to read those, ask Dan, and then we'll wrap it up. So with that, Professor Dan Blumberg.
Thanks, Doug. Welcome to all of you. It's a pleasure being here with you. My original plan was to be with you in the United States at the moment, but then came coronavirus and everything that goes with it.
One other quick comment, Dan, that I forgot to mention from the beginning was the fact that you were supposed to be in the States right now. In fact, this event was supposed to be live in Chicago, and then we repositioned it to be a national broadcast. So I want to thank our co-sponsors, the American Israel Chamber of Commerce in Chicago, as well as the American Israel Economic Forum based in Chicago. It's thanks to their good work that we were bringing you to the States, and now we're bringing you virtually to the world. In fact, we have already over 82 participants in this webinar from Chicago, around the States, Canada, as well as Israel. Go ahead, Dan.
So thanks, Doug, once again. It's a pleasure being with you. For me this evening, for some of you it's this morning, some of you it's this afternoon, wherever you are in the world and whatever the time is on your side. This is a totally new medium for us, giving live talks using these virtual meetings. I think that the world that we're going to live in a year from now is not the same world we lived in 3 months ago or 2 months ago. And this is one of the beginnings. I'm a professor at Ben-Gurion University. I've been teaching at the university for about 18 years. I have a big lab. I deal with remote sensing. Doug mentioned that I hold the Simon Family Chair in remote sensing. So my main field of research is remote sensing. I still do that. We look at Earth from space using satellite images, using airborne images, hyperspectral images. We've been developing new types of cameras to be used in other fields also, including medicine. But what we're talking about today is the development of Beer-Sheva. And as I said, this is a new medium for us all. But more than that, until 2 weeks ago, BGU had about 5 online courses. And within 4 days, we went to 2,500 online synchronous classes being taught. The whole university with 20,000 students are continuing to study from their homes while we're in lockdown in Israel. We're holding meetings that we would never hold on using the internet. We're doing them now online because that's the way we have to start living, at least for the next few weeks. But I think that this is going to be a game changer. And it's an event that's going to disrupt the way we used to live. We're going to have different things going on. We're going to develop new economies, and that's part of what we're talking about today. So I want to use that as an introduction to the main topic, which is developing new economies, developing new regions, and creating another alternative for youngsters in Israel to live in, a little less crowded. And I want to tell you a little bit about BGU, a bit about Beer-Sheva, and mostly about our plans for Beer-Sheva. So I'm going to share the screen with you. I'm going to share my PowerPoint over here, and I hope you can all see it over there. And Doug, you can wave your hand and just tell me it. Good. So you can all see what I'm showing you over here. And the main topic of our talk is building the new innovation ecosystem in Beer-Sheva. So I know that some of you have not been to Beer-Sheva in a long time. It might even be that quite a few of you have not been in Beer-Sheva ever. And all you may know about Beer-Sheva is this over here. Some of you think of Beer-Sheva as the Bedouin market that we have or used to have on Thursdays in the southern part of the town. Some of you may think of our parking lots looking like this, with the camels sitting over here. This actually is taken in Beer-Sheva, this picture, I have to be honest, a few years ago, not long ago. But Beer-Sheva has changed, and I believe that we're going to make huge changes in the future. And I just want to lead you to where we are at the moment. And this is the high-tech park right across the street from the university. And you can see over here the first 3 buildings that are already up and fully occupied. And the 4th building is already built, and it's over here. It's not occupied yet. They still have to complete it. And going from the university to this high-tech park, you just cross this one pedestrian bridge over here, which takes you over the train station, which takes 1 hour to Tel Aviv. And this is really a big change for Israel. It's a big change for Beer-Sheva, obviously. But I think that it's actually a change for the world, because we're dealing with global issues in Beer-Sheva. And I want to tell you a little bit about what we would like to do. Also want to mention
one of my favorite pieces, Dan, just to interrupt for a minute, is the architecture. It's so contemporary and amazing. When people think about the desert in Beer-Sheva, they don't think about buildings like this. In fact, this bridge that goes from the university over the train station into the technology park, sometimes we refer to as the DNA bridge, that brings the DNA from academia and translates it into industry.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doug, for adding that. I also want to add one other thing. We think of Tel Aviv being the center of the country. So socially, that's true. Probably economically also, not probably. That's also true. But in fact, as a geographer, I can tell you that if you took the map of Israel, folded it in 4, you'll notice that the dead center of the country is actually in Beer-Sheva. And what we want to do is make it a major center for Israel, for the country, and bring you to Beer-Sheva to understand what the potential is. So a little more than a year ago, the government, led by the Prime Minister's office and the Ministry of Housing, put a tender out call for an announcement of opportunities to cities in Israel, calling for cities to suggest the planning of innovation districts in their cities. We at BGU teamed up with the city of Beer-Sheva, the municipality, and the Soroka Medical Center, which I'll talk about as we move along. And we put together a joint proposal, and lo and behold, an international committee selected Beer-Sheva to be the first innovation district to be planned in Israel and to be built bottom up from the beginning and create another alternative to an economic center in Israel, an alternative to Tel Aviv in many ways, and other places that people can have other places to live in and enjoy their life and build a livelihood there. So I want to take you a little bit into theory. I am a professor after all. I have to mention theory. Back in 2004, a team at the Brookings Institute started noticing this new geography that was evolving around the world of innovation districts that were emerging within cities. They were very small areas, but creating great economies. They were located in specific places, and they started trying to understand what's common to these areas. I also want to mention that this paper that they published in 2004 by the Brookings Institute was written by Bruce Katz as the main author and Julie Wagner as the co-author. Bruce Katz is from Philadelphia and is a key player at the Innovation District there. Julie Wagner is a planner with the Brookings Institute, located in Switzerland actually, and both of them are working closely with us as we're planning and developing this innovation district here in Beer-Sheva. So, you know, if we want to understand what innovation districts do, they actually draw investments into small geographic areas and emerging new sites. And I think that Beer-Sheva is an emerging economy. It's a great place to live in. It takes 1 hour if you really want to go to Tel Aviv and sit on the beach in Tel Aviv. Most of you have to drive much more than 1 hour to your jobs. Here in Beer-Sheva, I can drive within 4 minutes to the university. I don't have the traffic jams. Well, at the moment, we're not driving at all. We're in lockdown. But when we do drive, it takes us a few minutes to get to the university. We have all the amenities that we need here. And if we really want to go to the beach in Tel Aviv, which we do, we like Tel Aviv, it takes us 1 hour to drive there. However, a lot of the investment goes to places like Tel Aviv. And here what you can see is, I'm showing you a map of the top cities that grow venture capital deals. This is correct for 2015. It may have changed a little since then, but not dramatically. If you look at this map, you're going to see the west coast of the United States as a huge, huge center over here, drawing money into the Bay Area mostly. You can see the east coast of the United States. You can see some centers throughout the US, a little bit in Texas over here. And then if you go into Europe, you can see the UK, you can see Northern Europe. You can also see a blurb over here in Israel, interestingly, and we'll mention something about that in a moment. And if we went further east, you'll see on the east coast of China, and you'll see a blurb around Shenzhen on the towards the center, south center of China, near Hong Kong. So actually these cities are distributed around the world globally, but you can also notice that many areas in the world don't draw the same amount of money and are left behind. We want to make a change in Beer-Sheva. So we started looking at what the top ingredients are for creating a successful startup ecosystem and how we can build an ecosystem in Beer-Sheva. And there are many ingredients, and this can be debated as to what's most important. You know, obviously culture is an important thing, and we can see that not every place in the world has these startup ecosystems. Talent is a key element, and talent is created often by universities. Physical infrastructure, the mindset, looking at global issues, nations' regulations that allow these things to develop. You can also see that, for example, this element of rebellion is a key element in building ecosystems. If any of you know what Israel is about, chutzpah is part of the issue. And that's where that comes in, and understanding the market. But capital is also an issue. We need to bring capital in. That's one thing that we do lack over here. But as we go along, we look back to see what the potential is for Beer-Sheva. I'm not going to dwell on this too much because I believe that there's a huge potential for Beer-Sheva to become a major economic center in Israel and globally. But here I'm just going to show you this one study that was published by T3, an advisory company, together with Brandeis International Business School, where they looked at which are the 7 cities in the world that are actually going to develop to be global cities that have the most potential globally. Obviously, when they say global cities, they mean outside the United States. And you can see that the first city on their list of 7 cities was Beer-Sheva. By the way, first among the 7 might be because we start with the letter B. But still, we're listed among the 7 top cities to become global. And the key sentence, I think, over there is that cities of tomorrow for technology and life sciences is a key potential for Beer-Sheva, due in great part to Ben-Gurion University of the Negev's leadership role in building the region. So now I want to tell you,
Dan, could you just comment on that a little bit? Sometimes in the States, we refer to it as the Stanford effect. If you take Stanford out of Palo Alto.
I want to spend a moment actually on that sentence.
Please.
Ben-Gurion University of the Negev was established in 1969. So we're exactly 50 years of age this year. We were going to celebrate the 50th anniversary in May. That's going to be postponed, obviously, because we want to get a lot of you to come to Israel and to Beer-Sheva for the celebrations. So we'll postpone it a little. And by the way, it was changed, the name was changed only in 1974. So we have about 5 years of grace over there in the middle. But 1969, BGU was established as an academic institute in the Negev. And the objective was not an academic objective, to be honest. The objective was to draw academic population to a relatively undeveloped part of the country. Nowadays, we compete with all the other universities on the same platforms. We get no discounts for being in the periphery. We don't believe that we're in the periphery. We're in the center, as I said. Fold the map in 4 and you're going to see Beer-Sheva is the center. But the DNA of being tuned into the needs of society and the needs of economy are still there. And what does that mean? So first of all, that means that, the sentence that you just mentioned about Stanford is true for Beer-Sheva. I can take another university, which I won't mention their name, in not the geographic center, but the economic center out of Israel, place it in LA, near the beach, and they most probably won't even notice that they've been moved. But you take Ben-Gurion University out of Beer-Sheva, first of all, most of us will notice. We won't know what we're doing in the new place, because a lot of our work is related to the place that we're living in. Second thing is, many universities draw on economies around them. BGU is different. BGU is building the economy and building the society in which we live here in Beer-Sheva. So we're a key element. If you take Ben-Gurion University out of Beer-Sheva, many other elements are going to collapse here in this region. So this goes back to the sentence stating that Beer-Sheva will become one of the cities of tomorrow for technology and life sciences, due in great part to Ben-Gurion University of the Negev's leadership. Another thing that I want to stress over here is that BGU now produces about 30% of the engineers in Israel. The city of Beer-Sheva produces about 50% of the engineers annually. We are home to 35% of the engineering faculty of all universities in Israel. We have within the university, the National Institute for Biotechnology. We're working closely with health institutes that I'll mention as we move along. And we have the ingredients to become the city of tomorrow, mainly for technology and life sciences. So what is an innovation district and what do we want to build? So if you look back at those papers that I mentioned earlier from 2014 coming out of the Brookings Institute, you'll notice that what they found in common to almost all of the innovation districts are that they very small geographic areas which create clustering of small, medium, large enterprises. They're very compact. You can go from one place to another in a very short time, actually walking distance, and you have mixed use of housing, office, and retail. But not only that, and by the way, this is the walking distances that they found. You know, you have 5-minute walks, 10-minute walk for software industry, and a knowledge neighborhood of a little more than that. But more importantly, what they also found was that all of these innovation districts developed around key research universities. You always had a research university in the center. Now that makes a lot of sense because universities produce two major things. They produce innovative research with the ability to look far ahead, and they produce human capital, students. We also teach. And those students are always looking for the new jobs, and they're looking for the tomorrow jobs. They want to be involved in things that are going to make a difference in the world. And that's where you need these large companies. You need entrepreneurs. You need that entrepreneurial spirit within the university. You need spin-offs that come out of the large companies, come out of the universities, and that come out of the collaboration between them. You also have in many of these innovation districts, research hospitals, not always, but in many of them you have R&D labs that can serve the universities, the companies, and everyone else, and you have these intermediaries, the facilities like district halls where people can meet. You have coffee shops where people can discuss things, and so on. So all of those are a key element in building innovation districts. Now, this, for example, is one of the district halls in one of the districts, and you have over here an auditorium, you have a coffee shop, you have places to meet, you also have places to gather and create conferences and so on, where you bring those together. But let's get back to BGU and what BGU is about and how you build an innovation district using and building on the academia. So as universities, we're involved mostly in research and in basic research. But basic research doesn't mean that that's not translational, that you cannot turn that into something that is useful for society and the economy. If it's not useful, you know, in many ways that might be wasted knowledge, doesn't come to use. A lot of that can also turn in technologies. So at BGU, we're very focused on translational research, building new partnerships with industry, with the government, with international organizations, developing new research projects at the university, using the 850 full-time faculty members that we have located at BGU, and the 20,000 students, of which 6,000 our graduate students. In Israel, we have tech transfer companies. That's a slightly different model than the United States, where you have tech transfer offices in the universities. We have tech transfer companies that are for-profit companies owned by the university. They create licensing agreements so that the knowledge that we create over here can be licensed out. We build spin-offs. We create new products. We also provide services to some of the industries. So for example, at BGU, we have the Ilse Katz Nanotechnology Institute, which has some of the most expensive microscopes, which can be used not only by the university, but also by the industries around us. And all of that is supposed to lead to economic growth. But also want to mention inclusive growth. While building economic growth, we want to make sure that we're including all of the population around us. That means the population that lives in Beer-Sheva, the population that lives in the development towns in Dimona, Yerucham, Sderot, Ofakim. It means the Jewish community and the Bedouin community around us. We want to create new jobs, new firms, and include all of the residents in this new economy. When we look at other places, we can see that most of these areas use the universities and evolve organically. Here there was a startup for this by the Prime Minister's office, but we took it to us very quickly and we started working on this intensively. And we want to focus a lot of our research so that it actually creates these new jobs and create a collective approach to growth in Beer-Sheva and in the Negev region. We also want to bring and build an entrepreneurial spirit at BGU. So to do that, we've already built something that's called Yazamut 360. And most of our students go through entrepreneurship classes. We're now building a center for entrepreneurship so that they can start thinking about their new startups while they're in the university. And then we'll help them move it out to the economy outside the university. And mainly, we want to leverage the strengths of the university and the regional actors around us to build this innovation district. So we look carefully at what we have in the university and what we have in the region and where the nexus is between these key players outside the university in the region and the university. And this is all about leveraging the potential. So we identified three major topics. So one is the area of IT and cyber, information technologies and cyber. Well, this is a no-brainer because we've already been working on that for quite a few years. It started in 2004 when we were approached by Deutsche Telekom, who owned T-Mobile, to work with them on securing cellular networks. But we've become the biggest hub for cybersecurity in Israel and one of the largest in the world, and I'll say a few words about that in a moment. The second thing is leveraging the fact that we have the second largest hospital in Israel right across the street from us and work on the area of digital health and wellness and leverage also some companies that already exist in Beer-Sheva. And the third one is, listen, we live in the desert. The desert is in our backyard and we want to work on that. So we're trying to work on areas that are related to technologies, which some might call environmental tech, envirotech, some may call clean tech, but eventually it's looking at what we have in this region and building that. So let's go back to some of the topics that I just mentioned. So one of them was desert tech. What do we include in desert tech? We include four major topics. One is agricultural technologies, ag tech. Second is water technologies. And the third is energy technologies. On top of that, we also want to, as we build this area, we will also want to think about climate mitigation, climate change mitigation in urban environments. But I'm going to focus on the first three. So we looked at what we have in the region. And lo and behold, if you look at Beer-Sheva and the area around Beer-Sheva, we have the Israeli chemical industry, which is located in Beer-Sheva with about 3,000 employees. And who are most of their consumers? Those are farmers. They buy fertilizers. And ICL is now working on agricultural data to provide solutions in farming. We also have Adama, which develops agricultural solutions. We have Netafim, which is actually designed drip irrigation for the world, located about 5 minutes away from Beer-Sheva at Kibbutz Hatzirim. So they're a water tech company and an ag tech company. Part of our university also includes the Desert Research Institute in Sde Boker, where we have the largest water institute, the Zuckerberg Institute for Water Research, and they're key members of this initiative. Then we started looking at what do we have on top of that in the region. And we found that we have about 200 researchers located at R&D centers throughout the Negev, working on agricultural solutions. Some of them you may know. Cherry tomatoes come from this region. It was a joint effort by Hebrew University and BGU, Yossi Mizrahi at BGU. We also have other solutions looking at honeydew melons growing on saline water and so on. So we want to build on what we have in the region and create a hub in this area of desert tech. By the way, we also have a lot of solar energy in the region. I didn't mention that. And we have the National Center for Alternative Energies at the university. The second element was the area of IT and cyber. And I already gave you an indicator as to what goes on over there, because we started a little early on. In 2004, we were approached by Deutsche Telekom to start working with them, but that's turned into a huge hub in the area of cybersecurity. And as I said at the beginning, in the park, at the ATP Park, the Advanced Technologies Park, we already have 2,800 engineers working in about 70 multinational companies and startups, all located over here. But even more than that, we have the Israel National Cyber Directorate located over here that are monitoring and detecting cyber attacks on Israel, working with other governments, identifying emerging threats. We're, I think, the first country with a national phone line, which you can call and tell them that you think that you're being haunted by Martians on your computer, and they'll check if that's true or not. And that's the 119 number, the reverse of your 911, has become our cyber emergency call number. That's being done with the Prime Minister's office. And with them, we've also developed a major lab at the university looking at the future of cybersecurity, something that I can talk about obviously extensively, but we won't have time for that today, I don't think. We've also developed here in Beer-Sheva, right across the street from the university, the security operational centers looking at the financial sector, the government sector, the energy sector, making sure that all of these are safe from cyber attacks. And I'll skip the issue of the 119 because I already mentioned this hotline that we have. And the last thing was that we have a cluster in the area of digital health. There too, we have two major companies, DB Motion, which already holds all of the medical data in Israel, which allows for two major things. First thing is that for the first time in history, you can look at very large databases, health databases, and try and identify issues in environmental health. And the other thing is that when you're rolled into hospital in Israel, they can look up your medical history without telling you to go to some other hospital and bring them the blood tests and so on.
Hey, Dan, I got a question on the Q&A about the status of the Advanced Technology Park. How many companies, how many employees? Is it really happening, or is it just an idea?
No, that's already happening. As I mentioned, there are already 2,800 engineers there. But let me get back to that at the end because I'm close to the end. And, So, as I said, the third one was the area of digital health. I'll just go back to that one slide so that you're all on that with me on the same page. And over here, we're working closely with the Soroka Medical Center, the second largest hospital in Israel. And, working with them also allows us to look at data very quickly and closely without going through huge bureaucracy. We still have to go through some bureaucracy, Helsinki committees and so on, but we can work closely with them, looking at environmental health issues and looking at other issues. By the way, Beer-Sheva has the most diverse genetic communities in Israel, which also gives us an advantage over other places. On top of that, there are two major topics that run through all three of these, and that's artificial intelligence and data sciences. Everything around health now is data. Cyber obviously is data, and any of these technologies include data. And we're developing that, and the area of robotics. And by the way, now in the Corona event, robotics is going to be a key issue, and I can say something about that later on, depending on how the Q&A goes. So I'll go back to where I was just before that one question. So who are the partners and the anchor players in this? Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, with 850 full-time faculty members, 20,000 students, of which 6,000 are graduate students, is a key player and is leading much of the effort. The Soroka University Medical Center across the street from us, the second largest hospital in Israel. The city of Beer-Sheva, together with our very dynamic young mayor, are playing a key role, pushing this forward, making sure that this happened. Even visited Philadelphia to see what another innovation district looks like. The park across the street with the developers, Gavyam Negev as the developer. The government are a key player. I didn't mention this earlier, but the IDF is moving all of the technological units to Beer-Sheva to a distance of about 5-minute walk for the CI4 units, and a little more than that for the intelligence units, which is going to be a huge boost of talent in this region. We're going to be the school to go to, at least for graduate studies, but we're also planning on this to be the place to go to for undergrad studies, for these young, talented kids that are recruited by the IDF. And we also have public-private partnerships already within the park. So we have JVP, Jerusalem Venture Partners, Cyber Labs in the park. We have Incubate, but we want to develop more. We want to attract more funding to this area. And I think that the time is right, even with this catastrophe of the corona that's disrupting everything globally. So let's go back over here so we can sum up soon. So Tel Aviv is already this huge magnet over here that's drawing youngsters, growing funding, growing capital in over there. But then we're going here to Beer-Sheva, which is this developing city with a major research university in the center, Ben-Gurion University, which is about to double the size of the university in terms of the area. We're now building the North Campus. We have the Soroka University Medical Center right across the street from BGU. So in fact, this is the only place in Israel where you have on one campus, both a university and a hospital. We have the Gavyam high-tech park already over here. The IDF, which is moving the digital campus, and they're working even through this corona event. The bulldozers are there working, building this. We have the communities in the neighborhood. We want them to be part of this event and grow with us in this. We have some open land that we can still develop more hubs in. and that just points to one of them, but there are also other small areas within here. We have the railroad in the center, which can take you back and forth to Tel Aviv in 1 hour. For those that really insist on living in Tel Aviv, they'll come and work in Beer-Sheva in the future, and they can take the train coming to Beer-Sheva, get off the train, and they'll be in the dead center of this very small area that's actually about 1 mile from one side to the other. And in this, we want to develop digital health. We want to develop the area of desert tech. We want to develop the cyber that we've already started. We've located places for each one of these. We're already working with some architects to look at what's required in order to do the physical planning of this innovation district. We want to create a lively area. We want it to be vibrant. We want to have coffee shops for people to meet. And we want to attract new talent and people to come and live here and enjoy life in the Negev, where we're located. We also want to include the BGU graduates. You know, when we put out questionnaires through and have polls with the students, asking them, how many of you would want to live in Beer-Sheva in the future? More than 50% say that they would like to stay in Beer-Sheva if, and the if is, if I had a good job here, a high-tech job. So I truly believe that if we build this, they'll stay here. They want to stay here. And we can attract them and create another alternative for a good life in Israel. We wanted to target disadvantaged groups and find ways to include them in this growth and build it together with them. We're also looking at the environment, and I put this slide, you know, this is not in Beer-Sheva, but this over here shows how you can use solar panels to create shading in an arid environment and have walking paths between all of the elements of the park, create food trucks and start having coffee shops, and also create culture, because as you grow with the population, you can build more and more elements of the community. So we're building this innovation district through partnerships. All of us are working together, the university, the hospital, the city, the companies, EMC Dell, for example, are playing on this platform all day long. I speak to the director of EMC in Beer-Sheva almost once a week. We have Intel involved. We have other companies that are enthusiastic about this opportunity. We have other communities. The high schools are interested. We also want to build our own high school, a science high school located right near the university. So we're building a new community in Israel and building the Negev. And with this, I want to stop and allow you to ask some questions, and I'll try and answer some of them. So thanks a lot. Thanks, Doug. Thanks to all of you sitting at home or wherever you are sitting. I'd love to be with you, and maybe next time I'll visit you in the States, in Canada, I understand, and the Israelis, I'll probably talk to you daily. So thanks, and I'll leave some time for Q&A.
Okay, thank you. So Danny, you could stop sharing the screen if you can do that.
Easily. There we go.
Perfect. So first of all, I just want to thank you for that great presentation. I've been watching the Q&A and chat along the way, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback, and just appreciate your flexibility to work with us in this new and virtual way to help us be educated and excited about the work at Ben-Gurion University, the Innovation District, and the future of Israel as it gets paved through Beer-Sheva. So thank you. A couple of questions and just a message to the audience. We only have about 5 minutes left. If you'd like to ask a question, go into the Q&A. I'll be reading through the Q&A, then ask Danny the question. And also you can use the chat function. One question that came in is from a gentleman.
Can I ask you at AABGU to keep all of these questions, and we can try and reply to some of these also later on if we don't get to them all.
Absolutely. One question that came in is from a gentleman, I think you recognize his name, Ernie Simon. He's asking, what's the role of Beer-Sheva in helping with housing, education, etc., as more and more people move from the center of the country to come to Beer-Sheva?
So thanks, Ernie, for the question. First of all, hi, I really wanted to have dinner with you this week. That was one of the plans. And unfortunately, I'm not there, but we'll get through this event and we'll still have dinner together again. So what's BGU doing? What's the university doing in terms of housing and providing housing? The university, first of all, is building at the moment in the North Campus new dorms, another 1,000 beds. It's a project led in the form of DBOT, Design, Build, Operate, and Transfer in 25 years. That's going to create alternatives for our students as more and more officers from the IDF move to some of the bases around here, and rent might go up. So we're already planning for that, and the buildings are already standing. You know, they're still being built. The finish is not done, but we're working. We're not waiting for it to happen. We're already working on that. We would love to have a university village here. That probably won't happen easily, but the university is working closely with the city in forecasting the needs. We also have several groups in the Department of Geography in the Urban Planning Program, students working on projects together with the city planner, looking at the needs and the physical changes that are required.
We're getting another question from a name you might recognize. This one's from Jim Breslauer. He's asking, what's the status of the hotel in Beer-Sheva?
Wow, that's a good question, and I'm not sure that I know the full answer. I know that there was a tender out. That's one thing, Jim. I'll get back to you. I promise to get back to you on that one. There were changes in the last month, and I don't know where that stands at the moment. But we really want to have a hotel, so anyone who wants to build a nice hotel next to the university, we need it, and we'd love to have one here. But yeah, I'll need to check on that one.
Phyllis Bernstein, who's a great leader in New Jersey, she chimed in that people come to meetings in Beer-Sheva all the time, but they need a nice place to stay.
You're absolutely correct, Phyllis. I fully agree with you.
Okay, we have well over, we've had over 100 participants. The Q&A is pouring in, so we're gonna have to try to answer these a lot afterwards. But one question coming in is about some of the major AI projects that you could talk about and how those relate to the university research and the Innovation District project.
Certainly, and then there's one question that I saw in the Q&A, and I'd really want to say something on that at the end. But on the AI, artificial intelligence, good question, and I'm probably the correct person to answer that because I was appointed by the Prime Minister about, it's more than 6 months ago, close to a year ago, to be part of a team building a plan for Israel to try and build a new AI industry and prepare Israel for the changes that are required as AI grows, both in the industry and as an operative tool. So we built a team led by Professor Yitzhak Ben Israel, Professor General Yitzhak Ben Israel, and we worked for several months in subcommittees where I led the subcommittee looking at what the research would look like and how to build research. We have a plan ready, we have a document ready for the Prime Minister, but we were waiting for the elections to be behind us and know who the Prime Minister would be that we're supposed to submit the proposal to. What I can tell you is that, first of all, Israel does have industry in the area of AI. Second thing is we understand that this is a major element of any future industry and any future successful economy and society, which will require all of the elements in the country to work together. That includes private industry. It also includes the army. So for example, I was working together with the intelligence community and the computer part of the army, looking at what they would require and how to build a new industry and a new element in the area of AI. We do understand that this is something slightly different than cyber. In cyber, we can train youngsters within a very short time, classes of 6 months for very talented kids, and put them out in the market or in the military working on cyber projects. AI requires a much more fundamental understanding of mathematics and other key elements. There are a few areas which we're trying to focus on. Some of them include, for example, health. You know, as we moved into this Corona event, we realized how important AI is to understand things that change dramatically or disruptions like this Corona catastrophe that we're going through at the moment. But we're also looking at transportation as a key element and at the finance sector. AI is going to be with us for a long time. It's going to replace some of the statistics that we studied as young students. And we're going to have to teach not only the mathematicians and the computer scientists, we're going to have to educate much broader audiences. We're going to have to make sure that physicians, for example, they're not going to have to operate AI programs. They won't have to write programs, but they'll have to understand what that's about and be able to use it. And we have a program in place which is acceptable by most of the communities in Israel, most of the relevant communities, and we're waiting for a new government to submit the plan to.
Okay, Dan, do you want to answer that last question that you had mentioned?
Sure, there was a question here somewhere about what can you say about the key elements to success for partnering with companies? And I thought that that's it's an important question. And there are two things I want to say on that. I was once asked about the cyber, the park that we have over here, and the partnerships between the industry and the university in the area of cyber. And it was the what's it called? Whoever's in charge, a minister in the UK government, who's in charge of cybersecurity, and said, how can we imitate this and build something similar at Oxford, for example? And my answer was, actually, you cannot. And the reason is that it's all about people. So the key element to success for partnering between academia and industry is that you have a joint goal and you're happy to get up in the morning and work with your partners. I can tell you that Maya from EMC, who leads EMC here, and myself, we can replace each other in talks by now. We do so many events together. We work together, we build projects together. We were on a talk yesterday about education in Beer-Sheva. We're working with a municipality. It's all about people having a joint goal and being happy to work together. That's the key element for success.
Okay, with that, I think we are going to wrap this up. Again, Dan, I just want to thank you so much for joining us and for the over 100 participants who participated in this webinar. I'm going to now share my screen. Can you see that, Danny?
No.
How about now?
Something's happening.
Excellent. Yeah. Our next live from Israel Ben-Gurion briefing webinar will be on April 7th under the leadership of BGU President Danny Shamovitz. Ben-Gurion University has put together the most comprehensive interdisciplinary task force of any university in Israel. It's quite a remarkable achievement. And we have a number of scientists, over 50, working on 16 different compelling projects to help both in the near term and in the longer term. We're going to have another webinar featuring the work at BGU on April the 7th, noon Eastern, called Distress, Compliance, and Containment, featuring some additional scientists from Ben-Gurion University. And with that, I just want to thank all of you for joining us. And I wish you to be very safe and healthy. Be well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Doug. Thanks a lot to you all, and have a good one.